Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, why not, let's have a little discussion about the news this week that Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister of Scotland, has been found effectively not guilty of deliberately misleading the Scottish Parliament, and therefore she has not breached the ministerial code and has no honourable reason to be resigning. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So in terms of my thoughts on this, there's a few things to unpack. So first of all, in terms of the decision, because what has happened is there was an inquiry into whether or not she deliberately misled Parliament. That's really crucial when we're talking about breaching the ministerial code, because of course we know a number of Conservative ministers in Westminster, including Boris Johnson, have done just that. They've broken the ministerial code. They should be resigning by their own code. It's not a case of just misleading Parliament. Misleading Parliament is you say something in Parliament that isn't true. Now, there is a difference between doing it inadvertently and doing it deliberately. If you do it inadvertently, that's not to say it's fine, but as soon as it's brought to your attention, you seek to correct the record in a timely manner, preferably as quickly as possible, actually that's fine. And in fact, in the Westminster Ministerial Code, it does say that as well. This is fairly standard. You know, correct the record. If you get something wrong, just correct the record and it's fine. You know, don't make a habit of it, please. Try and get your facts right, but it happens. So we knew that Nicola Sturgeon had misled Parliament over this Alex Salmond affair. There's an awful lot of dodginess around the whole thing, not least of which because, you know, when it comes to what did Nicola Sturgeon know and not know, bearing in mind that it's not just that she's just the leader who followed Alex Salmond, she was his deputy. But the key thing is, did she deliberately mislead the Scottish Parliament? An inquiry has found that she did not. Independent inquiry has found that she did not. And then there was a vote of no confidence in her anyway, which is a separate thing, although related. And she has handsomely won that as well. So I'm going to try and unpick my thoughts on both of those. The first thing to note, however, is you'll get an awful lot of people, depending on what your politics is, thinking one thing or another based on partisan politics. I try and avoid this. I am partisan. That's quite clear. I am partisan. I am a Labour Party supporter. That being said, I do try and be aware of the fact that I mustn't think in terms of partisan politics. You know, the reason I'm a Labour supporter is because I believe that a Labour government is the best thing for the UK. And it's really all there is to it. I can understand if you have the option, as Scottish people do, to have your own more local parliament and a bigger national one, you may support even two parties. That option is available to you. In my case, I would still support Labour. I am enough in tune with their core values. But yes, there's a lot of party politics in this that I want to sort of unpick. So the first one is opponents of the SNP, not all, by the way, but some, the Scottish Conservatives, let's be honest, are now trying to say, well, the inquiry wasn't that independent after all because it was conducted by someone who worked for the SNP, close to the SNP and all the rest of it. Well, you can hear that and go, oh, that doesn't sound very independent, does it? Well, there's a couple of things here. From my point of view, first of all, this person worked for Alex Salmond. And this is a barney between Nicola Sturgeon and Alex Salmond. So if anything, the person who headed up this inquiry is aligned with Alex Salmond and has still found in favour of Nicola Sturgeon. The second thing, and this is the clincher for me, because do you know what? I don't know enough about it to be able to form an opinion. So in such cases, I will always go, it was an independent inquiry as far as I'm concerned, unless I've got good reason to believe that it wasn't really independent. As far as I'm concerned, she hasn't deliberately misled Parliament. That's my stance, because that's all there is to it. There's a report. But what I looked for is, right, so what I want to know is from independent legal commentators, non-partisan, not, you know, independent from a point of view of no political views. Anyone intelligent and interested in politics, of course, has political views. They have a political position. But not everyone is partisan. Not everyone is party political. So I look at independent legal commentators, and do you know what? I haven't found a single one finding fault with the inquiry. That's good enough for me. So halfway through, it's safe to say she did not deliberately mislead Parliament. Whether she did enough to correct the record when she knew, I don't know. At the end of the day, the record is effectively, as far as anyone's concerned, as far as I'm concerned, corrected. So fine, that's okay. Now on to the vote of no confidence. Now this is, so on the first bit, by the way, particularly Scottish Conservatives, terrible hypocrites, because they're saying that Nicola Sturgeon should resign because she misled Parliament, but they won't say that Boris Johnson or Matt Hancock or Priti Patel should resign because they deliberately misled Parliament. We know they deliberately misled Parliament. We've got documentary evidence for that. They won't do that. So they're hypocrites. But others called for their resignation as well from other opposition parties. But that's fine, because that's party politics. And it's that vote of no confidence where it's the SNP playing the party politics here. Nicola Sturgeon said, I will not be bullied into resigning. If you want to remove me as First Minister, you do it in an election. Now that is pure party politics. That's hypocrisy on the part of the SNP. Because do we recall a couple of years ago, I recall a couple of years ago, when Theresa May faced a vote of no confidence in Westminster and the SNP voted against her? Was that bullying? Was that the SNP bullying Theresa May? No. And it's not bullying Nicola Sturgeon to issue a vote of no confidence in her either. At the end of the day, a government forms forms a government in a parliament, whether the Conservatives in Westminster, the SNP in Holyrood. It is the job of the opposition parties to remove that party from government. That's what it's there for. So in Westminster, for example, no one thinks twice about the fact that Labour want to remove the Conservatives from office. If they were able to trigger a vote of no confidence in Boris Johnson and win, I mean, they can, Keir Starmer can call for it whenever he likes, but he wouldn't win. If he felt he could win, he would trigger it. And do you know what? The SNP would vote in favour of it. Labour MPs would try and oust him. The SNP would try and oust him. Of course they would. What is the material difference here? You might argue, well, Boris Johnson deserves it. Okay, they do it anyway, whether they deserved it or not, because that's party politics. It is the job of every party when going to an election to try and, if not form a government, because the SNP couldn't form a government in Westminster, much like the Lib Dems, but at least get some sort of power sharing going on, even if it's unofficial. You know, support a party that will give you more influence. You know, that's your job. You don't, and if you can't get that from either party, you want to weaken whichever party is in government, because if you weaken the party in government, you strengthen the opposition. If you're in the opposition, you strengthen your own hand. That's really all there is to it. Now, Nicola Sturgeon, and again, this is why, if anything, further evidence that she shouldn't actually resign. Because again, you know, we don't know all the ins and outs of it, but the point is this. If a vote of no confidence was brought against Boris Johnson, he would win it. Why would he win it? Because he's in the right? Because he's a decent chap? No, because he's got a lot of MPs. He's got a large majority. Nicola Sturgeon doesn't have a majority at all. And yet she won the vote of no confidence handsomely. Boris Johnson would win the vote of no confidence, but proportionally, if you consider the percentage of MPs who would vote in favour of it, it would be a much smaller percentage than Nicola Sturgeon got. Now, there was quite a few abstentions in there as well, but, you know, abstentions are helping her as well. So she won that handsomely. That basically meant it wasn't just SNP. It wasn't a party political situation where SNP MPs supported her and all opposition MPs, MSPs in this case, voted against her. Quite a number of Scottish MSPs that were opposition MSPs, not in the SNP, voted in favour of Nicola Sturgeon not having to resign, and quite a number abstained. Only about 35, voted to have her removed from her position. So that again lets you know that ultimately, yes, there's party politics going on, and party politics dictates that you try and get rid of the party that's in government if that's not you. And of course, the best place to start is getting rid of their leader, weakening that party, that is your job, they fundamentally knew that it wasn't really the right thing to do. And they will know much more about it than I do as well. So those are my readings on it. As I say, the two aspects of it, the take home from this is for me, is she shouldn't have to resign. An independent inquiry, which is accepted as independent by non-partisan legal commentators, has found her that she didn't deliberately mislead Parliament. And even MSPs of other parties have fundamentally known that it wasn't right to vote against her in the vote of no confidence. Even though it's not always a bad shout to do so, because it is your job to remove the party in government if it's not you. That being said, everyone's playing party politics in this. Do not imagine that this is a case of Labour and the Conservatives and so on playing party politics, and the SNP are actually just trying to be the grown-ups here. They're playing party politics as well. Nicola Sturgeon suggesting that it's bullying behaviour to trigger a vote of no confidence, when she, as leader of the SNP, not in Westminster, but leader of the SNP, directed the Westminster SNP MPs to vote against Theresa May in the vote of no confidence a couple of years ago. All there is to it, party politics. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.